Sexual Abuse Awareness Month has come and passed. However, the subject that has brought awareness to continues to happen. The effort to provoke change doesn't end after a lunar cycle. Today we talk about the bad, the uncomfortable, the recovery, and how we can all make a difference. This is Let's Ruffle Some Feathers. I think today is probably we're slowly classing up. We did one crossover with another podcast. Now we have another crossover with two podcasters this time. So we have Miss J from Women with an Effed Up Mind. Hello, hello.
Hi.
And we have Lani from Crew's Corner. Hey, hey.
How goes it?
Hey.
What's up?
What it do? Thank you both for coming on. We were going to have Blackbird Advocacy podcast on as well, but last minute things happen, and it is what it is, and we wish her the best. And just want to put it out there that she recently released an episode where she shared some of her stories, and I can just say I kind of expected, but it's one of those I didn't want to push and ask if she herself has witnessed or experienced something like that.
Well, that's the difficult thing with a lot of these too, right? It helps to talk about it, but it's also you're kind of hesitant to ask because you'd also don't want to bring up any bad memories or feelings or whatever else, at least from my perspective. So it's tough on that end too.
Absolutely.
That's like knowing your audience as well. Is like some people are easier to talk about things than others are. And some people are easily triggered more than others. And it's like, again, just knowing your audience is like the most important thing. And like going into the military, on the military's perspective is just, knowing your Marines, knowing your soldiers, your airmen, your seamen, whatever it is, you just got to know who that person is.
I have no idea who my audience is. I just say my audience the thing with mine is when it first started, it was directed towards civilians because I didn't need to tell a veteran what really MST was. I didn't have to tell the military what the hell was going on for the most part. But civilians, I felt like I had to bridge that gap. So I didn't really know how to talk to anybody because I didn't know what to say anymore. And I was pretty motor pool talk. So it's like, how do I still hold on to my veteran and military audience, but I still include the civilians, but I don't go too far to where I trigger somebody, but I go far enough to where people kind of get that I'm not bullshitting. So it's like that balance is really fucking hard to find.
Oh no, I'm the same way too. I have no fucking idea what kind of people actually listen to my podcast. I have a general idea just because of the people that follow me on Instagram. But at the same time, the statistics or whatever doesn't say, okay, these are the type of people that are listening to you. And then my age group, I'm like, are people in the 30s and 40s is my biggest age group right now. And I'm like, what?
Yeah, if I go on Anchor, it's like you're listening, or you have 40-year-old men listening to your stuff.
Yeah, that drives me crazy. But when I was talking about with audience, it's like when you actually talk to that specific person, not necessarily talking about with an episode. So when you were bringing up, talking to that other podcast, I don't really know how to ask these things. And that's what I meant. Really, like I said, I'm with you on that. I have no fucking idea who exactly listening just because of the age group and male to female ratio. I couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
So, Miss J, tell us what your podcast is about, Women with an Effed Up Mind.
So, Women with an Effed Up Mind really kicked off because that sergeant that went viral, the TikTok sergeant, saying her perpetrator, got away with it. And I just got tired of all this shit, between that and the Vanessa Gann, and then found another soldier, which is Asia Graham, all these different people and all these different stories. And I'm like, I'm fucking tired of just sitting here, just reading this shit. I'm going to talk about this and not just to be about awareness. I want to make shit happen. So I figured the best way, to start things is come out with a podcast, which I have learned very quickly that seems to be a trend right now. Whoops. Anyways, but the point of the podcast is not just necessarily spreading awareness, but we're trying to make things different when it comes to survivors of sexual assault, sexual harassment, domestic violence, and bringing awareness of how the lack of mental health help in our military is, because it's not taken serious by a lot of people. And those are really big issues that should be. So the podcast has started to, start putting the voice out there to make people uncomfortable. And my favorite saying is ruffling all the feathers.
You mentioned, about the mental health in the military and how there's not really a push for that, or nobody really brings it up, even though you see all over base, there's posters everywhere. Oh, come to talk to this person, go talk to the chaplain, whatever else. But I would have to agree that there is, they say there's things there just as a CYA, but nobody actually expects you to go do those things, at least without having some sort of negative stigma attached to you if you choose to go talk about those things with the appropriate groups,
Exactly. And that's like you said, it is a CYA thing, because you got to say, oh, we have this, but it's like, it all boils down to being who you're surrounded by. And that's what's really going to make or break, when it comes to your mental health. And, one of the things that we really, really preach is, just giving a shit. That's like the main important thing, is just giving a shit about your fellow, service member, or your brothers and your sisters that you're supposed to protect and have their back. And it's like, I know, Six, you and I have had this conversation where it's like, we talk about all this stuff, but it's now just noise. It's not, nobody's doing anything about it. It's just being talked about, and everybody's just so tired of hearing it that it turns into that conversation. When you're tired of hearing somebody, you end with the response of, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely.
And why do you think that is? Do you think it's because of current leadership, or do you think it's these old birds that are sitting up in these high officer positions or whatever else that, there's that they're from a different generation. So they're the type to, just suck it up and move on type thing. And do you think it'll change if once the younger generation gets up into those spots in another, unfortunately to say, probably 20 years, you know what I mean? Like,
well, unfortunately, yes, I do believe that, because the people that are in leadership positions grew up in a different time, in a different type of era in the military, and haven't really, it's not their fault, but they haven't really got with the times, that they haven't accommodated to the changes, because the generation, even with me joining as old as I joined, the generation under me is very, very different than compared to the people that are in leadership. It's a whole different era, how they grew up, how they were raised. It's a very different time, and then on top of it, we're in peacetime, where you've got these people that are in leadership positions that were all in that, they grew up with suck it up mentality. We've got a war to fight. We've got shit to do. But now we're in peacetime with a generation that doesn't have the proper guidance. And, you can teach old dog new tricks, but it's just a matter of who's going to be the one that says, all right, here's the issue. This is what, get with the times. That's realistically what it needs to be, is that you just need to accept the fact that shit's different. Women are in combat roles. Women are all over the military in all different roles. It's not just, segregated anymore. And things are just different. And there's no controlling that. That's just how life is. Everything's changing.
And
I think life progresses. Things progress. We get smarter, and things are supposed to get better, right? And everything's supposed to be a little more equal, even though we know it's far from that. I mean, like we were just saying, they say it's equal, but we all know, anybody with eyes can see that it's not.
Right.
Oh, absolutely. And that one of the quotes that I heard the other day is that the battle isn't across seas anymore. It's in garrison. Because yes, we are still across seas, but at the same time, we have all these things going on. And then when COVID hit, all these, being quarantined and being isolated, it triggered a lot of things for people, because they had to be isolated. They didn't get to be around the people, or things are just, COVID made things really fucking different and really hard for people.
Yeah. And people, like you said, in the quarantine, right? People might have been fighting issues internally in their own mind, right? But they were able to get out and still hang with their friends. So that kind of social interaction, or being able to get out and do their hobbies or activities, it suppresses those dark emotions or thoughts for a time, right? And then when you're alone, those thoughts come back, but then you get out into the world again, and you're with your friends and stuff, and they suppress again. But once you take those fun times away, or the suppressing acts away, then it's just nothing but thoughts in your head, and then you can see how it goes downhill from there.
Right. And I think that kind of goes into Lani's side of the house with her podcast, and then also her book, which is titled Bottled Away. Lani, any of this stuff like is ringing all sorts of bells for you?
I'm just going back to the military that I wish I fucking left sooner than I did. But yeah, this is some reminiscing.
Well, like Lani, I remember when you were putting out your episodes, you actually gave into the vulnerability. That actually took a step like, okay, I'm vulnerable. I need some help. Somebody help me. And then
I got shit on.
In a typical fashion, which is another stigma that a lot of people have issues with, is they start scaling your issues to someone who has it worse. And that's kind of like the ongoing issue, not just with the military, but just everybody in general. When they hear someone with a problem, their first knee-jerk reaction is to scale it to someone who has it way worse, like just off the wall worse. Like
the one-up game is huge in the fucking
I hate that shit more than anything in the world.
Crazy.
I literally hate that shit.
You know, like, oh, I'm having a bad day. Like, oh yeah, well, I was in Korea, or I just lost like $20,000. Like, I'm sorry, but that doesn't make me feel better.
That literally happened to me. So with like my situation that just happened, you know, the next day I'm still like mentally not fucking coherent, still having to go to work, still be a fucking normal human. And then that one sergeant that I talked about, that his first response to me was, well, why don't we just go have frustration sex? The next fucking day wants to compare his problems to mine. Mind you, his fucking problems was the fact that he has 2 domestic violence cases for beating his wife. He's losing his fucking, he's getting adcept and everything. And he wanted to compare an issue that he caused, that he did, and fucking scream. Mind you, this is 2 days after my incident happened. Screaming at me, cussing at me, telling me how much worse he has it. How do you think I fucking feel? Like going on a whole fucking tangent. And of course, you know, still being an emotional fucking wreck, I start crying. Like straight up, because one, I can't say shit because he is a higher rank than me. I had to sit there and literally take him fucking screaming at me because my whole command's sitting right there. And then we go outside. He finally, after screaming at me, he finally takes me outside, continues to scream and cuss me out. And then, of course, still fucking crying. He's like, you want to cry like a fucking bitch, then go see a chaplain.
Oh.
Straight up.
Oh,
Yeah.
I can't believe it. I know it happens, but it's hard to wrap my brain around that it actually happens. You know what I mean? Like, it's so insane that somebody would respond to another person who's in distress in a way, and that's just accepted. Like, I can't believe there wasn't some other guys in the shop that didn't take them. Hey, let's go out behind the blast fence and talk real quick, and then just knock their teeth in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that was the hardest concept for me too, was there was people there and they just let him do it, knowing what was going on with me. Like, they all knew, they were all aware. My own, you know, the people that are in charge of me that I work fucking bend over backwards for to do shit. 90% of the time, I'm not even doing, like, I have more access and clearance to things than most of my command does. Like, seriously, like, I'm doing officers' jobs 90% of the time. And I was just telling you the other day, Six, that I fucking had to do a regiment project and I didn't get any credit for it. And I did it all by myself.
Oh.
Besides the point, totally irrelevant. But it's the fact that nobody said anything. Even with me, bloodshot face, because I sat outside to calm down. Like, once he told me to go see a fucking chaplain, I sat outside. Now, 2 of my buddies that are medical came and talked to me because they actually gave a shit. But I sat out there and, you know, I walked in the office. Of course, if you get done crying, you're fucking full of snot, red face, everything. And I had to literally go sit back at my desk and shut the fuck up and go about my business. And not a single person literally said, hey, are you okay? That's literally all somebody had to do. And it totally would have been a different game changer for me mentally. But it's the fact that I had to look at all their faces and not a single person said a fucking word. It just mind blown me. And I was like, this is exactly why I don't want to fucking stay in. This is why I'm done right here.
Right.
That's because they're all concerned with their next rank, and ignorance is bliss. And if I put my horse blinders on and don't see other people's problems and actually try to help other people, I can just focus on my next rank. And that's, unfortunately, that's all that people in leadership care about it. It seems.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this shit still goes on. This shit still goes on the veteran end where people aren't worrying about rank and shit like that. And people still do kind of the same reaction, because that's what I've dealt with. Because I've been out long enough to where I get to deal with the veteran side of the bullshit of trying to say something's wrong, because I stayed quiet when I was active duty. And
What
like enough
happens
to,
on the veteran side?
well, on the veteran side, like if you try to even say like, hey, like this shit happened to me and I didn't talk about it, like I sucked it up. I got my job done. I completed the mission, you know, like, do I get a star yet for fucking being like allowed to say like my service counted and shit like that? But on the veteran end, it still comes down to like a lot of ridicule, a lot of criticism, and you still get the jokes. I had vets hit me up saying, if it bugs you that much, fucking kill yourself. Hey, I would have
Holy
fucked
Oh my
you.
God.
Jesus Christ.
Like I've had them say like, you know, seeing your pictures, you know, because I put my shit all over because I'm out. I don't give a shit if people see my face or know who I am. But, you know, I've had people say like, you know, I would have tapped that ass too. I would have fucked you, you know, whatever. Or, hey, you know, it must have been nice being in a cavalry unit where you had all these dudes around, you got fresh pickings, you could fuck all the guys you wanted. Like that was what and that was a civilian that said that to me, because it was like, there's this perception that it's like we join because we just want to fuck everybody. And so when we get out, then people just kind of look at it like, hey, you know, like, didn't you get your fill while you were in? And it's kind of like, no, but that's coming from vets. So it like the rank's gone, like there's no upward mobility anymore. So it's like, where does that come from?
Yeah, no shit.
Yeah, it's just maybe it's some sort of perception of how they can just elevate themselves above you somehow. And it's just still, but people, here's the ultimate thing is people are shitty no matter where you're at. And that's just the inherent human nature, unfortunately, in so many people, because we don't let Darwinism take place anymore.
Right.
Yeah, but I think one thing with the veteran community, though, is there's a lot of people that refuse to heal. So they bleed on everybody. It's like, I'm not going to deal with my shit. So, but you're dealing with your shit over there. So fuck you, because you look like you got your shit together. And so now you're hated because you're working on your shit. Because this person does not want to deal with it. They won't acknowledge that they have a problem. They won't take responsibility for their healing. So you have all kinds of stuff on the veteran end that's getting in the way of people just listening to the people that are trying to do a damn thing about keeping themselves alive, or, you know, keeping other people alive or whatever, like just trying to tell their story and stuff.
Yeah. I'm going to switch it just a little bit to kind of give a little bit perspective for the civilian end of things, like on the aviation side of civilian stuff, right? In sexual assaults in an airplane, like imagine like how many women flight attendants have seen or been or have experienced some kind of sexual trauma, right? Like one flight attendant mentioned she saw a grown ass man just lay across a row of seats and just beat off while kids are around him and shit, right?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
On a plane? Like,
on a plane, yeah.
Where was the sky marshal and why wasn't that guy shot?
Heck if I know, right? And you would think that, right? And so she confronts him like, hey, there are kids around you, bro. Pull your pants up and quit fucking off, right? And stuff like that happens all the time. I mean, if there are flight attendants out there or in-flight aircrew that knows some shit about this, I guarantee there's some more fuckery going on, right? And then 1 in 5 flight attendants have at least witnessed a passenger being harassed or sexually assaulted. 1 in 5 flight attendants have been assaulted. And then out of all of those, only 7% of it gets reported. And that's just in a plane. Like imagine like you got nowhere else to go, you know, like you just kind of have to, if it does happen, you just kind of have to disconnect and just hope it ends quickly and then spend the rest of the flight, however long that is, and with the perp on the plane with you until you're able to report something.
I never really thought about that. That's fuck.
Yeah. And then I hear stories from all sorts of people. And this is kind of like where the Sexual Abuse Awareness Month really hit home for me, especially this year, because we have podcasters and influencers like you two and then a bunch of whole others. They're making a difference. They're throwing their voices out, showing their examples, and it's making more people voice up. You know, like 2020 was just that bad a year that you know what? I'm tired of it. The mental illness damn broke, and now it's just gonna flood out, and I'm just gonna say it all, put it all out for everyone to hear. And some of the stories we heard are from close friends of ours that we would have expected that these things would happen. but it's the sad part is it's a lot of it is all common denominator stuff. Like it was somebody I trusted. It was somebody who I never thought it would do it to me.
Say from my end of things, a lot of the women that I know that have gone through a similar thing as you ladies have. It was a family member. It was a close friend. It was somebody that they, like Six said, somebody that they trusted. It wasn't a random stranger in some location, at a bar or whatever. It was, in their home or, at a family get together, some stuff like that. It's crazy how much of it is somebody that they've known for a while and trusted.
Yeah.
And that, like, talking about that, like, I grew up, like, you saw those horror shows and stuff. And I was taught that it is a stranger, that it is somebody, to not be alone at nighttime because some random person's going to, get you, or just being out alone, whatever. But I was always taught, don't talk to strangers. Like, we're all taught that as kids. And then, like you said, like it majority of the time, like it is, it's almost like 90% of the time, it is somebody that we've known. Like it's what you hear, somebody we know somehow, whether it was a coworker, a close friend, whatever. That's the crazy part to me, is that, like, again, we were growing up, don't talk to strangers, don't be, put yourself in a situation walking alone at nighttime, and just things like that, and how it just completely 180s on that.
Yeah, and it wasn't actually a wolf. It was a wolf in sheep's clothing. You know what I mean? Like it's
absolutely.
And I think there's two common denominators for all of this stuff to happen. It's either quid pro quo, like this for that, or it's some kind of a hostile environment where they just wear down your defenses, and then right when you're at your most vulnerable, that's when they pounce on you. So like quid pro quo. Man, my Latin sucks. Like this for that. Like it's always like someone at a position of influence, and you're at some point like you're less informed or easily swayed, right? Like example, like a new employee or a new check into a unit shows up. Here's their level 3 or some kind of E9 status boss, right? Says, "Oh, hey, welcome to the unit. I'll show you around." Right? Okay, whatever. Or welcome to your new job. I'll show you around. Oh, okay, whatever. And then it like you never would have guessed, like red flags will start coming up. Like this person is like preying on you until the deed actually happens, and then you're like at a loss because, well, I'm the new kid on the block. Is this the norm? What do I do? I don't even know who to report it to or who to talk to about it because nobody knows me. I don't know them. And so you're just kind of at this loss, and then your only option at this point is just to bottle it up and just hope for the best that they got their fill and move on. Did I cut out everybody?
No, you're still there. Thinking about stuff.
Yeah. So I mean, it's either, and another example, I think this was on another podcast where a new check-in comes in, never been to this place ever, doesn't know a single person there. First person to show them around was like, okay, hey, let's go around. Hop in the truck. Okay, hop in the truck. Yeah. And then you're thinking they're going to drive you to where you need to go. And then all of a sudden you pass it, or you think you passed it. You're like, well, maybe there's something else, or maybe there's another way in or something like that. And then they pull over to an alley, and then, I mean, I don't know how graphic you guys care about this, but like they pull them out, do the deed, and then just kind of like let you sit there with it. And then it kind of turns into like the flight attendant on a plane. Like, well, do I stick around or what do I do?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think people know how to react. It's one of those, I'm in a position of power, and if you want your career to go well, whether it's military or civilian, I can do this for you. What are you going to do for me? And they hold that over you. And then let's say they unfortunately get their way, for lack of a better word, and then after that, they either don't follow through with what they said, and or they do, but they treat you like less than dirt because it's just the egotistical maniacs that they are. It's so shitty. And like today, I heard a couple of guys, they're veterans but civilian side now, and they were talking about, and Six said it, new arrivals, and they were over in Korea, and I think they said every Thursday the plane comes in, bringing in new people to the base, and they said that guys would just line up on the fence and wait for the females to get off and say dibs, dibs, dibs. Like, what the hell is that? You know what I mean?
When I got to my first duty station, you get picked up by like a staff duty person. Sorry if you guys can hear my 4-year-old yelling at me. You get picked up down at like main post and stuff, and you get taken up to wherever you're going to go. And the guy that was on staff duty that night, after he dropped me off at my room, for the rest of the night, every incoming soldier he got, told him what room I was in and said, hey, there's a girl up at this room at this building that looks easy. So just so you know. And the only way I found out about it was because someone actually came and told me that, like, hey, someone's giving out your number to everybody coming through in processing right now. And so just like kind of, watch yourself, because I got dropped off in basically an infantry barrack. There was one other female and it was a 3-story building. I don't know how many rooms. It was just me and one other female, and the rest were dudes. And so, for me, my situation was these guys knew I was in this building and would watch me do laundry, would watch me go to the bathroom, because they all use that bathroom too. And there's no curtains.
Oh, you guys had to share restrooms?
No, it was because it was an all-male building that they decided they would take over the female latrines, because it was like, why should we not use them? There's no women that live here. And so they would just come in, and I'd have to shower at like 2-3 in the morning, like run in, run out, because I didn't want anyone to walk in. And so it was just constantly hiding all the time. And my situation ended up being as simple as someone offered to help me carry groceries up to my room, and they shoved their way into my room. Like, it was as simple as, hey, this guy's in a uniform. I just came out of basic, and we're all like cool together, and we're buddies and this stuff. And everybody's like one team, one fight. And then you find out like you're not all in the same, you're not all on the same team. Like, some people are just shitbags.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That goes into like that, what I was saying with the hostile environment, right? Like you're sitting in a pool full of sharks, and you're just kind of waiting until the first one like takes the bite, and then everything turns into a feeding frenzy.
Yeah, they smell blood, you know what I mean? And then just swarm.
Like, how many men, women from all across the board have seen that happen, where like you just walk in and your eyes immediately point to you, and they kind of just slowly pick away at you until there's nothing left for you to defend yourself with. And then now it's just like, okay, who's going to be the one to take the bite first? I mean, I've seen this happen at work. I've seen this happen outside of work, like say at a get together, a party, a bar even. And it's like National Geographic, like they just slowly wear their prey down until they can't defend themselves, and then now it's easy pickings, Like
Lani was saying though, but living in that constant heightened state of awareness, fear, I guess, always looking over your shoulder, who's following me down the hall, you're just trying to take a shower. Like, man, is somebody in here? I thought I heard something. It's like you like the movie Psycho, right? When she's in the shower, comes in, and you're constantly like, somebody here? Like, what? That's no way to live, especially when you're all supposed to be one team, one fight. Like you were saying, we're all cool, right? We're all on the same team, but a lot of people are just out for themselves.
Yeah, and this kind of transitions to like consent. Like everyone there's always this stigma going on. Like when there's alcohol, it's like instant consent. Oh, well, like, or another one is the jeans alibi. And I'm sure a lot of women out there know what I'm talking about when I say the jeans alibi. But for those of you who don't know, the jeans alibi, it stems from a court case where this dude rapes a girl, and then he gets off because they said like, well, she wore tight jeans. So in order for him to have sex with her, she had to have taken them off, because it was that tight. And I'm just
nobody took into consideration the whole ass age group on that too. She was like a teenager still, and I'm almost positive she was like 18, but he was in his fucking 40s. Like, I mean, granted, yes, Italy probably has a different culture, whatever, because I know everybody has different cultures, whatever, not knocking it. But yeah, like that that was the first thing I read before I even got to like when I first ever read about the Jean alibi. I didn't get to that point yet. I was just like, the first thought in my head was, holy fuck, that's an age gap. Like, You are preying on a child. Like,
Oh yeah.
you're a fucking weirdo. And then like for them to rule with the whole jeans thing, oh God.
That got me spooling up pretty good too, right? I'm like, you're thinking about like, come on now, man. Like, let's be real, man. If you can be in a damn bomb suit, and if a person is committed to doing unwarranted acts to you, they're gonna find a way to freaking shed that off. It doesn't matter if whether you consented to it. It doesn't matter like if you helped them do it. The fact is they came in there with the intent to violate your free will, and they're gonna more or less they're gonna get their way if you don't try to get out of it first. And half the time you don't even know how. This is kind of going a little bit into the gray areas, but some of that consent also goes into like online dating, especially because now we're still in COVID times, and you can't just casually go meet somebody, or you can't just have like open forums and then just somehow hit it off with someone, right? So online dating has been kind of a big thing as of recent, and a lot of people feel that since we matched or swipe right on each other on online dating sites or whatever, that's like instant consent because, well, you agreed to meet me, so green light, right? And oh man, I can't even begin to tell you some of the horrors.
It's one of those. It's like they didn't say yes, but they didn't say no either, and people really take some liberties with that one.
Yeah. So like this is kind of going into like online dating tips real fast, but if you see somebody and it's either a group picture or it's only like 1 or 3 pictures, or they say like they're super educated and their English is broken, red flag, you know? Or if they're so quick to like, oh, let's connect, let's do this, like asking for your number and shit, but they don't even give you like a video chat or social media connection, something to that effect. Like, okay, red flag. But again, like some people, like they're really desperate for that companionship, and they feel like, okay, this person's pretty good to go. They come in and then they turn into that statistic, but you never really consider that going in, like, oh, it's never going to happen to me. Like I've checked my boxes, and it's where it lines up to what I want to do. And the one thing I know for sure about consent is like at any point in time, consent is retractable. And
very much so.
And especially when there's alcohol involved or any kind of mind or thought inhibiting devices, that's like instant no. But then again, we run into those issues where, oh, alcohol is involved, like then they must have wanted it. They both must have wanted it.
Well, I talked about it in one of my episodes that Missouri actually passed a law that if you were intoxicated, you can't claim rape.
What?
I mean, did they really even have a population to first off? But secondly, like, yeah, they did a whole ass law that says that if it is proven that somebody tries to claim rape and that it's proven that they are intoxicated, I didn't read it like how they didn't really explain on how the fuck to prove it. Like, yeah, okay, you can run a breathalyzer, alcohol stays in your system for certain periods of time, but who's to say that person doesn't finally, because a lot of people just can't report shit right off the rip. A lot of people cannot just talk about that shit. So you can say, let's go, a week later, they finally process it, what happened, whatever. How are you going to prove that they had alcohol? Oh, well, she did have alcohol. She was consensual. Is that what you're just going to do? Just go word of mouth on that one? Because then that's horseshit. It's absolute horseshit that you can make a fucking law that says, oh, you had alcohol, so you can't claim rape. And for me, personally, that hits fucking close to home because that's what happened to me. That I was fucking unconscious as fuck after drinking with a group of friends that I had been friends with since elementary school, just for a close friend to do that to me while I was unconscious and in and out because I'd been drinking so much.
You were about to say something, Lani?
I'll just say if you look at Missouri, though, law-wise, and I'm not going to try to justify their shitty behavior, but a lot of stuff Missouri does is not for women's rights. They are.
Oh, God, no.
They are very far behind. I'm in Kansas. I mean, the Midwest is not always the place you want to be if you're a woman because things are behind. And so it's sad that they do it, but it's not surprising, especially if you're from around here, because they are just not for women really having a voice for shit.
So
it's amazing. Like you almost want to say, like, these people making laws, like, do you not have daughters of your own?
That's what I always.
But that's because they're rich enough to protect them. I mean, they're not going to the same schools or in the same, like they got their bodyguards and all this shit, like these politicians, like half these girls that they can protect their kids for the most part because they don't have that, just, they're not experiencing life the way the rest of us really are.
Yeah, it's true, I suppose. It's just still like, no, there's just no heart. It's all just me in the decision making, and just no general thought or concern for anyone else.
I mean, it's the same as like these politicians that vote against like abortion rights or something like that. But if their daughter gets pregnant, they can afford to send them off to another country or something like that. Like there's these laws that they come up with for everybody else, but they're not following it. They're not doing it. Their kids don't have to abide by it. Like like I was saying, it's just a different life.
And like you guys hit the nail on the head, all of you. Like when I hear a lot of these, I'm gonna go ahead and say heinous acts. When I hear a lot of this shit, the first thing I think of is not just the victim. I think of my kids. Like I'm picturing my own kid saying this to me.
That's exactly what I do.
Like, Dad, someone violated my free will at some point. Or Dad, like, if they even have the courage to even tell me, right? If they even have the courage to like push through the embarrassment and tell you, the parent, like somebody did something to me, right? Or whatever. Like you just see like that broken face, but they don't have it in them enough to tell you. That freaking makes your stomach sink, right?
I mean, my vision goes red. Like when I think about it, it puts me into a real dark place. And then you start going, I understand how that father in Texas murdered the dude with his bare hands who attacked his daughter in their barn. You know, you understand how murders happen in those cases.
Yeah. So I'm gonna give a little bit of a comedic thing real fast. Going into the children thing. So my daughter was 5 years old at the time. I'm coming to pick her up from school, and I see her. She sees me. We wave, and then she starts walking to me. And then one of her classmates puts his arm around her like they're homies, like they're dating, like they've been married. And my mind immediately starts going nuts, right? And I start thinking to myself, like, am I really thinking about drop kicking a 5-year-old kid? You know?
Well, I do the interior. Like, my daughter will talk to me, and she's like, "Oh, I was talking to so and so, or I'm playing this game online with so and so, and it's a boy's name, you know." I said, "Well, who's that? Is he a classmate?" I start going into interrogation mode, you know.
I do the same thing.
Like, who's their parents? Where do they live? What's up?
Right. So I tell my wife this, like, "Oh, hey, I really had a moment where I was really thinking about Spartan kicking a 5-year-old," and she laughs her ass off, right? Like, thought it was the funniest shit in the world. Like, you're really not gonna do that? I'm like, yeah, the fuck I was, because it's a freaking dude just like shows up, puts his arms around my kid like he done owns her. Like, fuck no. And then,
but that's why I'm training. That's why I'm training her younger brothers to be a couple little ass whoopers, and just in case, you know what I'm saying?
Right. That goes into like, I'm gonna flip the script a little bit. Like, what would you do if you were the one who were wrongfully accused of any type of violence, to include sexual violence and rape? What would you guys do?
Fuck.
Like if I was accused of raping someone?
Yeah, or like sexually harassing somebody. Anything of the effect where like the spotlight immediately turns to you, and you're like, "Well, what the fuck, there, perp?" I'm like, "Oh, fuck."
I mean,
I wouldn't even know how to comprehend that. Like me sitting here, I guess with my mindset and how I was raised, like that's not a thought process like ever in my head. So to even imagine it, I'm like, what the fuck? Because like, like just alone with my situation a month later, like this isn't rape, you know, mine was domestic violence, but a month later, he accused me of, after he hit me and choked me and shit, that I grabbed his arm when he tried to run down the stairs and slapped him 3 times.
What?
I've heard several scenarios from several other women I know out here that have gone through a similar thing like you. They got the shit kicked out of them, and then the dude was like, "Oh well, but she slapped me across the face." So she slapped you across the face, and you sent her sailing over the stairs. Like, what the hell?
Exactly. Like when the person told me this, you know, again, it was like a day or two before it actually hit like an official month since it happened. And they were like, yeah, there's a new allegation. And this is what is now being said, when 3 days prior to this, when I had talked to, you know, another person, there was no allegation made against me. So just in a magical 3-day time frame, you know, all of a sudden I slapped him, and I looked at her. I said, all due respect, I said, if I actually was going to do something, I would have probably just Spartan kicked him down the stairs. But I was so pissed off that he had the balls to say that I slapped him after he hit me. I should have slapped the bitch out of you at that point. Like, what?
Yeah. And imagine like what that feels like. I mean, you obviously do, but imagine, and every listeners out there, imagine feeling that where you're accused of something that you know for sure you didn't do, and then you start questioning yourself, like, well, did I do it? Right? You start questioning your very livelihood. Like, did I really do it? Like I know it's not true, but was it?
For me, I think I would be like, well, all right, let's see. Are there cameras in the vicinity where I'm at? I'm going to pull all the camera footage that I can. I'm going to lawyer up. I'm going to get all these character statements, you know, like from people that know me or whatever else. And, you know, I just, cause like Jay was saying, it's not a thought that ever really has been brought up. You know what I mean? Like, I've never really had to think about it. So just going off the top of my head now, that's the only thing I could really do is just try to defend myself and get a bunch of people who know me to actually go in my defense as well, you know?
Right.
And playing devil's advocate though on that, like, you know, yeah, you have these character statements, but when I think about like with my person, like if he had character statements and that's why he got off when he actually did, even with the pictures of the proof that I had, like the markings on my face, the bruises that were there for a whole fucking week, and he still got off. And that my thing was like going off of what you said is, you know, the character statements and stuff like that. But like, what were we doing? If you're going to accuse me, like, was I even with you? What was I doing that day? Like, because again,
can I prove that I wasn't in your area? You know what I mean?
Like, even with you, and even if we were with you, one, were we even alone? Two, again, what were we doing? Were we at a party? Were we at, you know, somebody's house? Are we at, you know, at the mall or something? If kids even do that still. And that would be my thought process. Like, if you're accusing me, okay, well, when the fuck did this supposedly happen? That would be my first question. Because when am I ever going to put myself in a situation
totally
to where I can be accused of that? You know what I mean?
Right. And then like you still, there are people out there who have been wrong, who've been accused of stuff like this. And for one reason or another, where to be vengeful, where there's kind of like he said, she said, or he said, she said, whatever the case may be. But like, it can tip in either way, and you're like starting to question your own character, and then everyone already starts to blame you because someone cried wolf first, and you're just sitting there spinning with it like, holy shit, like my life is literally about to end because of shit that I supposedly never did. I'm like,
oh dude, I was shitting bricks when she told me that allegation. I was shitting bricks, like I ain't gonna lie, because just that fear, like I know I didn't do it, you know. There was no police report. There was no pictures. There was it's a month later. And then I start second guessing myself, like, what the fuck? Like, this is what's going to potentially happen. Because then you look at situations like Corporal Teo, where she's been in the brig for a year now, and she didn't even physically cause any harm to her boyfriend. And he's even advocating for her to get released. The person that, you know, she supposedly had a PTSD outbreak on. But the Marine Corps is still keeping her in the brig when she is known, you know, on paper, known by everybody that she needs mental health help. And that's how, you know,
they hide the mental health thing instead of actually advocating to fight to fix it. You know what I mean? Or to get her the proper help she needs. They just bury it down and, oh, it's out of sight, out of mind. If we just avoid it, if I don't look at it, it doesn't exist, you know?
Oh, absolutely. And like I said, I was like, I literally called a lawyer that same day, and I was like, what the fuck? Like, this didn't fucking happen, blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm tripping the fuck out. He was like, calm down, come in my office, we'll talk about it. But because, you know, I took the steps that I needed to prove, you know, that he actually did it to me and he did not, then I was fine. But it's just looking at, past things that have happened, are happening, whatever. But yeah, it goes back to like, what was your thought process be? I was shitting bricks because I fucking just got accused of something I didn't even do. And even with the proof that I didn't do anything.
Well, and the unfortunate part is that even in today's world, even with the proof that you didn't do something, I mean, we've seen several times where that still hasn't panned out,
Oh, absolutely. There's whole other fucking stories that go to it, irrelevant, that yes, nope, felt that one in my soul.
Yeah. Perception is 80% of reality, right?
Fucking hate that saying. Oh my God.
But it's so true though.
Yeah,
So
I hear it every day.
So here's one. Like, so how do you tell if someone has been a victim of some kind of abuse or sexual violence? How do you approach them and then give that space where they can actually like tell you what happened? Like, how would you approach that?
Well, because that would also be difficult, right? Because now the victim is real jaded and they're real standoffish against anybody who's trying to get close to them because of what happened, right? What happened in their situation. So now they're real defensive against anybody, even if you're just genuinely coming in and trying to be a friend and trying to talk to them and help this and that. They're still going to be super defensive against you and push back because they just don't trust anybody now.
Right. Lani, you were saying something?
I was just going to say it kind of depends because, I mean, for someone like me that I kept quiet for the 6 years I was in the Army about it. I didn't tell anybody. So nobody would have known to approach me because I wasn't going to let on. And when I got to the VA after I got out, one of the first things they ask you when you're signing up and enrolling is, do you want to make any claims for MST? Like they just flat out put it out there. And I said no, because I was just going to stick to it. Like, didn't happen, just kept pushing it down. And one of the reasons why I didn't open up was because one of the people that were in my company during active duty who was sexually harassing me nonstop. Like we're talking drive-bys, like coming by my house and looking in my windows and like just total creeper status. He ended up becoming a patient advocate at my VA.
Oh, Jesus.
Holy shit.
So you want to tell, like, when the VA sitting there saying you can talk to us, I know you can't, because some of those people that are working in the VA are veterans and they are the ones that were raping and harassing and assaulting people while they were in the service. And now they got this job. And so there isn't really always a way to approach people because people are going to be standoffish, and people like me, I have no trust for who I like can talk to and stuff like that, because even for me, like opening up to peers, even saying like, hey, I'm having a hard time, I got harassed out the ass by other female service members after I got assaulted. They ran with it. Like they could tell something was up because some rumors started going around, but of course it wasn't rape or assault. It's you fuck somebody and you're a whore. And they were relentless. And so I didn't want people approaching me, and I was going to say that nothing happened no matter what.
And I think that's true for even the civilian world, but myself and MVP, we've seen some individuals who showed signs like they had some weight on their shoulders, but everyone starts doing the rumor mill and saying like, oh yeah, she had it with this person, or she gets around with that person, or she's sleeping with this manager, director, whatever the case may be. Like just instantly starting to draw conclusions without even like at least having some string of facts. Like they just instantly just draw it, like without even knowing what's going on or even asking how to do it. And I think you guys have all hit the nail on the head. It's like, well, it kind of depends who the person is, and then what's your relationship to that person. Like if you're just some random stranger, the fuck no, they're not going to say nothing. Like who are you to even know what's going on with my life, right?
See, it really depends with that, though. It all depends on how you approach it, because, like, obviously, you're not going to approach that person right off the rip. Like, yay, I heard you got sexually assaulted. Like, what's up? You want to talk about it? Like, no, you're not just going to approach them with that. And even if they're in some type of trouble, like, it's going back to knowing your audience. And, I'm one of those big advocates that if you tell me to stay away, like, for another female, for example, I actually did this. When I first got to my first unit, I was told to stay away from a certain female because, she had all these rumors against her, just the typical high school bullshit. Like all these stupid
just because
rumors.
you graduate, you don't get away from it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But I was like, okay, well, she's older like me. She's actually older than me. We're the same rank. So fuck it. I'm going to become friends with her just because y'all told me not to. Because I'm a firm believer. I make my, like with me personally, I make my, my opinion of somebody off of what I learned. I don't give a fuck that you don't like her or don't like him. I don't give a fuck about none of that. Like, I'm going to form my opinion on how I get to know them and how they fucking treat me. And that's my biggest thing, is just knowing the person, just not even the first time, even if you don't know them, just say, hey, how you doing today? Like, just little shit like that could actually, and then that starts to build that relationship. And I actually did that with another, a female. She was going through some shit, like straight up not having a good time, got all the flames in the background, like, and I knew it. I heard the rumors, whatever. But I take it upon myself when I know things like that. It's just little things like, hey, how you doing today? Or shooting the text like, hey, I'm going to go eat chow today, but let's go get chow. I'll pick you up. Like, just the tedious thing.
That can make anybody's day, because they're fighting that battle all alone, and they think they're all alone, but you get one nice person to say, hey, let's go grab something to eat today at lunch. Really? With me? You want to go with, that just changes their whole outlook on life for a minute. Like, oh man, I'm not alone. Like, there's somebody here. I have a friend, you know what I mean? And there's something to be said for a friend.
Yep. And that builds that, that comfortability. And eventually over time, just doing little things like that just shows like, hey, I give a shit, and I actually give a shit. And then that builds that comfortable level. Like, okay, well, they're going out of their way just to do this little stuff. Then that can open that doorway for them, because typically you don't want to push the person or poke that bear if they're going through shit and you don't know if they want to talk about it or not. You don't want to be just flat out like, yeah, I heard those rumors. Like, let them come to you about it and then be like, yeah, I heard about it, but I didn't want to bring it up because I didn't know how you felt. And a lot of times, like, I've had that happen multiple times, to where I just built that friendship, built that comfortability, and then them come to me about it. And they're like, why didn't you, ask me about it like everybody else is? I said, because I know that's not what you want, or you want to just ask me that question. Like, they don't. Like, a lot of times, victims, survivors, whatever you call it, they don't want, a lot of times they don't want to talk about it. They want to do things to forget about it. And I know I talked about this in one of my episodes. I think it was actually the one with Rochelle. It's just doing the littlest things to show people that you give a shit, and they just want to be distracted. That's what it is. Like, for me, this project, even though I keep talking about like my incident, but doing the podcast and doing this project has distracted me from mentally just dying down from dealing with what I'm dealing with. And that's what a lot of people look forward to, is just that distraction. Eventually you do have to like talk about it to heal from it, however you decide to cope with it. But it's just a lot of the times people just want that distraction and not have to think about it.
Right. And I think let's put in the mindset of the victim, right? They've lost basically all sense of self-value, right? Self-esteem in the dirt, self-value in the dirt. Like, I'm gonna take this from you, Lani. Like, it's better for them to put a gun in their mouth than to let whatever in their soul out of their mouth. You guys hit the nail on the head. Like, sometimes you just gotta like play the long game and like, hey, I'm actually here. I'm a friend. I'm a safe spot where you can actually like feel a sense of value and feel like you're a human being again. Have that little bit of self back. And then you can start the actual healing process. So,
yeah, but what I can say about that before you like move on, but when my shit happened to me, it kind of just like was like the daisy chain of fucking problems that happened after that. Like, I just got into shitty relationships, shitty things. And so I got to a point where I had no value, no self-esteem, all these things. I lost kind of like my worth when it was not just like, the only worth I had was like, oh, I'm a soldier. Cool. I'm doing things for my country. That was like all I had. So I latched onto that. But I had such little value in myself that when someone did come to me and say, hey, I will help you, I said, I don't fucking deserve it. it was my fault and I don't want help because I got myself into it, right? That's what everyone says. And so it's like, I have to get myself out. So I pushed away at people that said they would help me because it was like, no, I'm a piece of shit. I don't deserve it.
Right.
And I got to a lot of points where I was like, I should just kill myself, or I should just let it go because I'm weak and it hurts. And this got to me, and I'm supposed to be a soldier. I'm supposed to buck up and be indestructible and like this superhuman stuff like that. And I'm not being that. And so I'm a failure. So it was like, no one can help me because I wasn't at a point where I was ready to help myself till many years later.
And I think that's a subject that's not touched on a whole awful lot. People only really talk about the incident and never really the aftershock and the emotional distress that goes with it and the self-loathing and hating. And that alone is such a massive hurdle to try to get over, right? Just like you said, Lani, it takes years to tell yourself, and you can have some people like, no, you're worth it. You're worth this, but it just takes in your own time for you to get to yourself and say, when you look in the mirror and say, yeah, I'm the champ. I'm there. I'm that person. I'm not a piece of shit. Fuck everybody else type thing. It just takes a while.
Yeah. It's not my fault, right? Like how many people out there, victims and all, have yet to hear that and then say it to themselves as well. Like, it's not your fault. It's not my fault. I was out of control of the situation. There was absolutely nothing that I could have done. It's not my fault. Some people have yet to even hear that for the first time.
But ladies, do you think that's because after the incident, you had several other veterans and even some of them being females come to you and basically tell you to get over yourself and get wrecked? And do you think that part of it is what causes that self-loathing when you're like, Jesus, I went through this and you're still going to shit on me?
I had a lot of people that made me very ashamed and feel like I was just, what I always got is like, with dealing with like stuff like MST and saying like how it kind of like catapulted me into like other bullshit in my life. It definitely led me into like domestic violence and all these things. But it was this idea that really just, I don't even really know how to put it now. Yeah, I totally lost my thought.
Like you're trying to fill a void, right? And
it's just like you're so lost in yourself that everything people say to you sticks. It is so easy to just let it, everyone else's opinion is now your opinion of yourself because you're so lost. And so you're at that vulnerable point where now you have all these people that are just telling you to suck it up. And it hurts and you're trying, but it's like you're trying to have a human reaction to something and you're being told you can't do it. And so you kind of just hit this point of like, sometimes it's not even about like the MST or the stuff that happened. It's about your reaction to it. For me, it was my reaction as being a soldier. And so the shame and the self-guilt completely outweighed what physically had happened to me at some point. At some point, it was like, whatever, I have all this government issued gear. I guess my body's government issued at this point. Don't own it. It's going to get beat to shit anyways. And I just stopped caring about the fact that someone had violated my body and done something to me. And it became a point of the harassment about having had something happen to me, because then that became my full opinion of myself and my image of myself.
See, that right there is some like, I can't even, like, I'm picturing you telling me this face to face, and I'm also picturing like my loved ones telling me this. I'm like I can't fathom. Like, it's one of those, like, it's too horrible to be real. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's where everyone kind of hits that breaking point. Like, it's too horrible to be real life, and so they don't want to embrace it. They just want to disconnect, just like how the victims were. Like, this is too horrible. I don't want to hear this. I just want to focus on the positive shit. But like all things, like if you just ignore it, if you avoid it, it's only gonna make that dark side that much darker, right? And I hear this from a lot of therapists too. Like, sometimes in order for it to be less impactful, you gotta go in there, rip the scab, and then dig into the infection. But like the hard part is just knowing that you have a problem, because how many individuals, like, they sit with it, they don't even realize that they have an issue, or that they're sitting with a problem, or that the opinion is just not in fact theirs, right? So what what did you ladies and listeners out there, what do you think that we can do to help somebody who is unsure or unwilling to find help?
I really feel like when someone's unsure, as shitty as it might sound, sometimes you have to let people get there themselves, because you can't force people to heal. You can't force people into therapy because some people are going to kick back at it. And so the shitty part is sometimes you have to kind of help them find something that's worth living for, something that's worth healing for, a reason to get better, a reason to want to change that piece about themselves. Because for me, it was like, you don't get past that self-loathing very easily. So for me, it was having a kid. Like, if I don't fix this, I'm going to kill myself. And what does my kid do? And so I know I've written stuff like in my book, I said, don't attach yourself to people, especially when it comes to like finding a reason to live, because if you don't have them, what are you living for? But you have to get someone to want to heal. You can't lead them there. It's the whole like, can lead a horse to water, but
right, it's that you can't help others who don't want to help themselves type thing.
Because they're only going to heal as much as they're going to allow themselves. Like, you can sit there and tell somebody all day long, this is what you have to do. And if you just do this, if you take this first step, you're going to feel better. You're going to live another day. And if they just are not ready to go that route, it's not going to happen. Even if it means salvaging themselves, it means living a little bit longer. Some people just aren't going to take that step till something clicks in their life that says, are you going to survive today or not? Are you going to change this or not? Are you going to let it eat you alive from the inside out? Like, I know it's not the greatest answer, but I think some people just have to fucking find their way themselves, but know that they have people, like, people have their back. Like, you're not alone, but.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I would agree with you, Lani. I think it's one of those like, hey, I'm here if you need me, type situation with certain people, how they respond to that, to somebody trying to help them. Hey, I'm here to talk to, but you got to let them get to the point where they say, because you try to tell them like all the positive things in their life, like this, and this, and it's
you don't always
they understand it, but they aren't accepting it. Until, like you said, one day they wake up and they're like, "This is it. This is what I'm meant to do."
And that's really for me, because I've been doing my podcast since beginning of 2019. I've talked to a lot of veterans, and I've had I've taken people in that had nowhere to go, let veterans like put them up in my house was kind of like Motel 6. I'll leave the light on for you. Like, I'll fucking take people in just so they're off the street, so I can give them that one little bit. Like, I can put a roof over your head. I can do the kind of the physical stuff for you in terms of like shelter, but I can't make you want to heal. And so what I've learned from the people that were suicidal or getting to that point was you show them they're not by themselves. For me, it was just by like, here's a place to stay. Here's some food for your belly, stuff like that. Simple things like, I'll take care of you in this aspect, but I'm not going to force you to therapy. I'm not going to force you to even choose to live today. If you choose to, go your route, it's your life. But every time they always got to the point where it's like, I'm ready. And then I drove them to a VA intake, or I drove them to wherever they needed to go to get the help. But it was never like, hey, you're pretty fucked up. You should probably go to therapy or something. Like, even just like in a nicer way of being like, hey, have you ever thought about, the VA is great or something like that. It always came down to let them not feel alone in the moment and then see what they do with it. Mm-hmm. And it can be really surprising, because I've had people that were like, this person, I'm going to come home and this person's going to be dead. But it was just the fact that I let them into my home and I showed them they weren't alone. And they took that moment to be like, you know what? I'm not by myself. There are people out there. I do got a buddy. And they made that decision. Hey, you know what? Drive me there. I'm ready to go.
That's
just that one act of kindness changed their whole outlook. They said, wow, the world isn't complete shit. There are still decent humans out there who care.
You would think that it like you said, just giving a shit, you would think it's really simple. Like, that's the one thing I wish and want to just get out, like get in certain people's heads too, is that literally just give a shit, just the slightest bit of shit, because we all have problems. Yes, we all have problems.
Yeah, but we got to get over that one up and shit because everybody's got problems. And so everybody's like, yeah, fuck your problems. I'm dealing with my own fucking problems. Like,
so I agree with you on that because so many people are like, oh man, I'm having a shit day. And somebody's like, oh, you think you're having a shit day? I blew out a tire on the way to work. It's like, no, just, well, what's up? You know, tell me what's going on. Don't bring your shit into it.
And it's just
hey,
about
what's going on with you?
Changing your tone, like for one fucking second, swallow whatever bullshit you got going on because it could be something so stupid, like something so dumb, or it's something you caused. For an example, like that sergeant who, you know, caused his domestic violence cases, whatever, side note. But it's just little things, just changing your tone, just changing what you say. Like literally instead of saying, well, this is what the fuck I had wrong. Oh yeah, that's what happened with you? Well, okay, well, what's going on? You want to talk about it? Or what? You want to bitch about it? Go ahead, go for it. Like I will sit here, I will pull a chair next to you and forget about my fucking issues because you mentally might be handling, like your situation might seem smaller than mine, but you could be handling it way fucking different than I would. So that's the thing. Like
there's a lot of people though that I served with the military that are fully incapable of putting themselves in somebody else's shoes or just being aware of how something else is affecting somebody. Like it's asking too much for them to be like, oh, this isn't about me. I have to have a little bit of empathy for a second or some sympathy. Like some people just don't have any emotional intelligence whatsoever.
Well, that's a good point. There are some who are just lack the ability to be a decent human for 10 minutes. You know what I mean?
Right. Or they're listening to answer, not listening with the intent to listen.
They're just waiting to respond to it.
Yeah. Like, okay, like how do I give the quick answer just so I can get out of here, right? Like you've already invested more than what you felt that you could have given. Like you just asked the question, but you didn't actually intend to hear it. And that's the thing that I think really chaps my brain about is like, if you're going to ask the question, stick around, right? You open the door. Now you got to like stick with it. Even if you have to fake the funk and just listen and then say, okay, like here what's a way I can direct you to, or just like stop them right there. Like, hey, like this is well above my league. There's nothing I can do. It's overwhelming my ability to help. But hey, let's get you somewhere where someone can.
I wish people would just straight up say when they just can't handle it, instead of just being like, oh yeah, cool. Like,
oh damn, that's crazy.
This is just too much for me to handle at the time. I'm sorry. I'm not the one type thing. Yeah, that would probably be so much easier.
Yeah. And then like what you ladies were saying, like just sharing your story, sharing your experiences, that drives other people to come forward and say stuff. Some have been sitting on it for months, years. Example is on the Blackbird Advocacy podcast, all these stories of people who sat with it for like 7+ years, 8+ years, 15+ years, and then they finally realized it was wrong, that it wasn't supposed to happen, and then they finally come up about it. And I think that's like one of the big changes or the big differences we as a whole and everyone who's moving forward with this kind of movement is we just want you to be able to feel comfortable enough to share your story and know that you're not alone, and then be able to give an example. Like there is a light at the end of the tunnel. It doesn't have to end with what you perceive is the actual ending.
Wanted to tie into that too, right? We were talking about, hey, you know, somebody says, man, I'm having a shit day. Well, what's going on? You know, stopping the one-upsmanship. But then beyond just asking what's going on and letting them tell their story, follow up with it, you know, after a couple of days, like, hey, you said you were going to do that. Did you actually end up doing that? You know, and they might say, no, I haven't done it yet. Like, well, what's the holdup? You know, I mean, not in a different way, but like, oh, well, was there an issue? Were you not able to get a hold of them? Was the line like, you know, this and this and that? But follow up, because that still shows that you weren't just listening to answer. You're in it you're invested to help them help themselves.
Well, and that, like sometimes with people like doing that, like doing a follow up, sometimes people just don't want to talk about it. Don't want to go to like if they do schedule appointments, they don't want to go to these appointments because it's just like what's the point? Like sometimes you just get so mentally depressed that you're just like, I just want to sit at home, sit on my couch in my blanket and watch TV. I don't want to fucking be around people. I don't want to talk to people. Like I just so they don't follow through. They cancel the appointments, so they don't show up. And then, you know, that follow up seeing how they're doing and like, oh, how'd your appointment go? And then just kind of like shows, oh, maybe I should go to that appointment. Somebody gives a shit. Maybe I should try to do this.
Oh, if I don't go to the appointment, I'll let this person down who's actively taking an interest in me. So I better go do it,
Mm-hmm.
And I think it also helps, like, giving it, like, if you had a personal experience or you had an example where like you were really fighting to not do something better for yourself, and then you finally say, you know what more do I have to lose about it? And then you find out like this is something that you actually needed, right? Again, case in point was like some of the stories on Black Bird Advocacy and other friends and family who shared with us, like they needed to hear someone who had a similar story, or they needed to hear someone who had a similar experience and had the answer basically read back to them, like, this is something I should do. This is something I needed to have happen. And then they can begin the healing process, however long, short, painful or not, that it needs to be, because that now we're in the steps to actual recovery. This got pretty dark fast, but again, we're here to make this uncomfortable, and we're here to ruffle feathers, because there's individuals out there who really need to hear this shit. And if you're one of those individuals that really think that people need to just suck it up and tighten their panties or tighten their chonies down, you're part of the problem. And I'm gonna call you on the bullshit. You are part of the problem, and you yourself either need to change or figure out, or just stay away from humanity, because
or figure out what's hurting you. That's why you want to
who hurt
somebody else.
Who hurt you? We're here for you, friend. Who hurt you?
So how do you think, though? Kind of turn the tables here, but like, how do you fix people like that? Like, let's say, okay, you're a little E3, and you've got this E6 that's supposed to be in charge of you, and they're just making it worse for you. They're literally not supportive, making shit a lot harder for you. But then you're just stuck there and you can't say shit. You just have to fucking take it, take it to the face. And it's like, what the fuck do you do at that point?
I'm gonna take a note off your book. I'm gonna start plucking feathers. That's really it. It's one of those where like, okay, so your method of learning is to make it hurt. So it's gonna hit home for you one way or another. It needs to hit home for you. It needs to be by an example that you can directly relate to. It needs to be something where you're going to be directly affected by, something that you're invested in, because it's clear that you're not empathetic of other people's. So maybe it needs to be more turned towards you. I'm not saying punish them. I'm just saying it needs to be driven home somehow, some way, whether it be education or a simulated life event where you're now understanding what it's like to be in a brain in a body where you're not in control of anything, like literally nothing, like it's just happening and you're just there to take it.
Well, so I was never military, only done military contracting and stuff, but could you, as the E3, go to the E6's superior and say, hey, this shit's happening, it's unsat, I ain't dealing with it no more, or go to even several levels above the E6's immediate superior, and then, hey, you got somebody here who ain't following coloring within the lines, you know what I mean?
So you can, but you also run into like what we were talking about earlier in the episode, is everybody like in the higher ranks is still stuck in like 2001, for example, where, when shit was just a whole different, mentality, and you're stuck. Like you get that, still have run into those people, the mindset of, well, I don't know what to tell you, or just, buck up, or just avoid that conversation and just stay away.
Would it be the same for a high-ranking female to find the highest-ranking female officer on base? I mean, what do you think?
Finding that is so fucking hard.
I would agree with you on that, but I'm just spitballing, because I don't know.
The one issue, though, is that, again, this is going off my experience. Everybody has this, but sometimes women in the leadership positions can be the worst for telling another female, lower ranking, to buck up and shut up.
Yup, they're the ones, because they were raised.
They already had to do it. So it's like, yep. I made it here, so can you. Shut up about it.
Yep, they don't give a fuck. Even if they didn't deal with that same situation,
they will turn you the quickest.
Yes, they will fucking eat you alive a lot quicker. And I've never understood that, because like,
it's competition shit.
it is. And it's bullshit because even being older, my dumbass, you know, I was naive to like some of the military lifestyle of, you know, women are such a small percentage that I automatically thought like, oh, women empowerment, like, oh, we're going to stick together. Fucking La La Land. Oh, hell no. I was all wrong.
I think that's the same in the civilian world, especially because in the civilian world of things, everything's you got to eat your own to get by, you know, and it doesn't matter who you step on. It doesn't matter who you're fucking over. As long as you get yours, that's all that matters. And that's across the board. And it doesn't matter who, what, when, where, or why, male, female, whatever. They will.
Yeah, I'll put knives in the back. Yeah, it's one of those. I'll put knives in the back of anybody to get to where I want to be type thing.
So,
and I hate that fucking mindset. Like, I'm not saying like we got to stand in a circle and sing Kumbaya, but holy fuck, just why is it so hard to just be a fucking decent human, you know, whether military or civilian side? Because I had a whole fucking life before the military. I had a whole career, went to school. Like, I'm straight up an idiot for dropping all of that. But whatever, I wanted, you know, to earn my title. But as I'm saying, though, it doesn't matter what spectrum you're on, military or civilian side. It's like, you know, and COVID, going back to the COVID thing, you know, we all lost a sense of what the fuck, you know, to be a human and can't act right. But why, you know, you sit there and look at that person and be like, what in your brain says, I just fuck you? Like, straight up, like,
I got to get mine. You know, that's really it. I got to get mine, and whatever it takes, that's really what it is. I will kind of sort of shift it in a way where, like, if you absolutely feel like you need help, or you feel a friend of yours, some acquaintance of yours needs help, sometimes the third party route is a better way to go, right? An example is the Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network, RAIN, where they have a hotline and some kind of groups that will actually help you address these things, like education programs for individuals who want to know how to help or want to know how to detect the signs, or someone who is a victim. Like, there is something out there for me to actually use, right? And some of this stuff, like, I myself never knew about it. I didn't even know what RAIN was. I just thought, oh, like Sapper Helpline or the Sharp Helpline or whatever the freaking alphabet soup acronym it is nowadays. Just like, call this person, and like, okay. And then you call and then the number doesn't work. Like, well, fuck. So going on to that, like, if you have an issue, reach out to somebody, please. Or if you feel someone's having an issue, please, like, a short text message could end up saving a life. And if you absolutely need to talk confidentially to somebody, start with RAIN, for instance, with their helpline or their crisis helpline. 1-800-656-HOPE 4673. If you don't have those kind of phone pads that have the letters on them anymore. Sorry, my age is showing. So again, you know, like, it really all it comes down to, and we've been saying it the entire episode, is just be a decent human being and give a shit. That's really all it boils down to. And don't just put yourself in the victim's viewpoint. Picture like someone like you hold dear saying that exact same shit to you, and just imagine like how much your stomach would fucking sink. I couldn't, you know, something like that actually happened near and dear to me, and I didn't believe it. It was like, no fucking way, this can't happen. But then you have to really suck it up and drive with it, because now this is life. Now this is reality. What are you gonna do now, right? And it sucks that there's individuals out there who don't have that kind of support. And I really feel for every last one of you. And I hope that hearing this and seeing all our posts and all our different campaigns to bring not just awareness, but bring a difference helps you. And we're hoping someday that all this stuff gets pushed out. Like, this mindset, this stigma needs to just fucking go, you know?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. Ladies, would you guys care to put out your info? So if any listeners out there, you know, maybe they'd feel more inclined to reach out to you and talk, you know, after listening to this, maybe they want to go with somebody who's been through it and knows what to do and will actually listen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. If anyone wanted to hit me up, I got rid of my website and pretty much all my shit, but you can reach me on either Instagram or Facebook, and it's Cruse _corner, KRUSE_corner. And I'm on there quite a bit. So if you just shoot me a DM, I'm always around. I'll Zoom.
Yeah. So, sorry. Go ahead.
No, so I was just saying I'll Zoom call. Like, if people need a face-to-face, I know everybody feels really disconnected right now. So, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, so you can actually get to the podcast either through Instagram, and it's _it's effed up. Or I am on Facebook now, not 100% on Facebook, like, cause I just don't care for it, but I do it. Wow. I'm actually on the podcast Instagram page more than I am my personal. So if you need somebody to just give a shit, or if you want to tell your story, the beauty of the podcast is that I am 100% anonymous unless you want to put it out there. It doesn't matter what it is. It can be a sexual assault, sexual harassment, domestic violence, how you've been ostracized when it comes to, your commands, or even just by your peers. It doesn't even have to be military related. You can even be a military spouse or whatever, because we recognize that things are just as much as your issue as it is our issue. And same, I don't give a shit if you're male or female. We are gender neutral because we recognize that it's a both situation. It doesn't matter what's between your legs. And that's what we're here for, is that we're not just about raising awareness. My famous saying is, we're not just about raising awareness. We're about doing the damn thing, making people uncomfortable, and ruffling as many feathers as we can. So if anybody needs somebody, Lani's a phenomenal person. And side note, since she didn't say it, I'm going to say it. I recommend getting her book, Bottled Away, which is a very good book to read. So yeah, but either one of us, I highly recommend. You are more than welcome, regardless if it happened years ago. Do not hesitate to reach out. Hell, I was just on a podcast the other day, and the woman came out for the first time in 14 years. And
wow.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine, the reason I'm even able to talk about my situation the way that I am is because I'm using my coping as a tool to, reach out to people. I'm using that as fuel and using it as a coping mechanism when it comes to the podcast and doing this project, because I want to make things change. I don't want, again, I don't want the rah shit of just posting the statistics. That's the one thing why I really connected with Lani was, we're fucking making shit uncomfortable. And that's how it has to be, because, sharing the numbers that everybody's been reading for all these years, nobody cares about that anymore. It's about sticking out and making shit uncomfortable is how things are going to get heard. And I want more people, to join in this, to be a part of this movement, because it's like you said, it's not just about awareness. It's about doing the damn thing.
Absolutely.
Soapbox over.
Absolutely. All about making that difference. Whatever that little step is, just make a difference. It could actually save a life or 1,000. KO Punch MVP.
KO Punch, ladies, appreciate you coming on and telling us your stories. Sorry anybody has to go through it, but sorry you two had to go through what you had to go through. But because you're strong individuals, you're able to come out and be able to be advocates so shit like this can end. And we really appreciate that. And we need a lot more people like you who can stand up and fight the good fight.
Very much so. And
I appreciate you having me on.
All of you ladies
so
and every single one of you listening to this, you are appreciated. You matter. It's not your fault. And whenever you're comfortable, feel free to reach out to any one of us. Reach out to Rain. Reach out to somebody, and start your road to recovery, whatever that time appropriate timing is. Thanks, everybody. Ladies, thank you. Everyone out there, thank you for listening.
Thanks, ladies. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you.
We'd like to thank our patrons for supporting our show and allowing us to keep producing episodes, bring on guests, and keep Shoreline ever the happy to produce our show. With special thanks to Erica Lamont, Chris Hawkins, Stephanie Boatman, Jenny Dignan, Ryan Frushauer, Daniel Schubert, and Steven Shivers. Thank you all, our patrons, so much for all your support and again, your patronage. If you have ideas, topics, or stories for the show, or you would like to be a guest on the show, visit cancelformaintenance.com and drop us a line on our contact us section. We will do whatever we can to get you and or your ideas onto the show. Check out our sponsor, Rockwell Time, for all sorts of outdoors and sporting apparel such as watches, safety-rated sunglasses, and snowboarding goods. Visit rockwelltime.com, use code CX4MX, and save 10% off your purchases. Support us on Patreon at patreon.com/cancelformaintenance. Patronage again allows us to continue making episodes and maintain our gear. Patrons also get exclusive perks such as access to our Discord and discounts to our upcoming merch.